Los Angeles, 1951. Spring morning. A young man stands outside Paramount Pictures. He's holding a piece of paper. A call sheet. His name is listed at the bottom. Under, background players. No character name. Just, man in crowd, scene 14. This is Charles Buchinski. He's 29 years old. Been in Hollywood for 1 year. Living in a boarding house on Normandy Avenue. Sharing a bathroom with 8 other people. Eating 1 meal a day to save money. This is his 3rd audition callback in 12 months. The first 2 led nowhere. But this one is different. This one is a yes. Background work. No lines. Just stand there. Fill the frame. Make the scene look populated. The pay is $50. That's what Paramount offers for 1 day of extra work in 1951. $50 doesn't sound like much. Even in 1951. But for Charles, it's everything. It's rent for 2 weeks. It's food for a month if he's careful. It's proof that he can actually make money doing this. That acting, even at the lowest level, can keep him alive. He reports to the assistant director at 6 a.m. Gets fitted with a costume. 1920s suit. Too big in the shoulders. Too short in the legs. But it doesn't matter. The camera won't see the details. He's background. Furniture. Human decoration. The scene is a nightclub. The lead actors sit at a table. They have dialogue. Important dialogue. Character development. Plot advancement. Charles and 40 other extras mill around in the background. Dancing. Drinking fake champagne. Pretending to have conversations without making actual sound. The director is Billy Wilder. Already a legend. Already won Oscars. He's shooting Ace in the Hole. A dark film about media exploitation. About how far people will go for a story. For fame. For money. Wilder doesn't speak to the extras. Doesn't acknowledge them. That's the assistant director's job. The AD tells them where to stand. When to move. When to freeze. The extras are props. Breathing props. Nothing more. Charles does what he's told. Stands where they point. Moves when they say move. Stops when they say stop. Hours of standing. Waiting. Moving slightly. Waiting more. This is filmmaking. Glamorous from the outside. Tedious from the inside. During lunch break, Charles sits alone. Eats the sandwich provided by craft services. It's the best meal he's had in days. Free food. One of the few benefits of film work. He watches the lead actors eat at a separate table. Catered food. Hot meals. Fruit. Coffee. A different world. 10 feet away but completely unreachable. He notices Billy Wilder watching the extras. Studying them. Looking for something. Wilder walks over. Points at Charles. Says you. Come here. Charles stands. Heart racing. Did he do something wrong? Is he getting fired? Wilder looks at Charles's face. Really looks. Studies the angles. The shadows. The way light hits his features. Then Wilder turns to his cinematographer. Says this one has an interesting face. Strong bone structure. Put him closer to camera in the next setup. The cinematographer nods. Makes a note. Charles doesn't know what to say. Just nods. Says thank you. Wilder walks away. Already thinking about something else. For the afternoon shots, Charles is positioned differently. Not in the far background. Closer. Still not speaking. Still not a real character. But visible. Noticeable. His face will actually be on screen for a few seconds. This feels significant to Charles. Not to anyone else. But to him. The difference between being completely invisible and slightly visible feels enormous. Like progress. Like movement toward something. The day ends at 7 p.m. 13 hours of work. The extras line up to get paid. Cash. $50 in bills. Charles takes his money. Counts it carefully. $50 exactly. He puts it in his pocket. Keeps his hand on it. $50. 2 weeks of survival. As he's leaving, the assistant director stops him. Says Paramount might use him again. Depends on the project. Leave your contact information with the casting office. Charles does. Gives them his boarding house phone number. Hopes they'll call. They don't call. Not for months. Charles keeps auditioning elsewhere. Gets a few more background jobs. Different studios. Always the same pay. $50. Sometimes $40. Once, $60. But usually $50. That seems to be the standard rate for a day of being human furniture. Years pass. 5 years. 10 years. 15 years. Charles keeps working. Background. Small roles. 1 line here. 2 lines there. He changes his name from Buczynski to Bronson in 1954. Sounds more American. Easier to cast. Maybe. He never becomes a star. Never gets the breakthrough. Just grinds. Survives. Outlasts hundreds of actors who quit. Who give up. Who decide this dream is impossible. But Charles doesn't quit. Can't quit. This is better than the coal mines. Better than Pennsylvania. Better than going back. 17 years after that first $50 job. Charles Bronson is 47 years old. Still working. Still supporting player. Still the tough guy in someone else's story. He gets a call. Paramount Pictures wants him for a film. Not background. A real role. Character name. Lines. Actual screen time. The film is Villa Rides. A Western. Yul Brynner is the star. Robert Mitchum second lead. Bronson third. Supporting role. But a real one. The pay is $10,000. 200 times what he made on his first Paramount job. 200 times 50. Bronson takes the role. Works hard. Gives a strong performance. The film does okay. Not great. Not terrible. But Bronson gets noticed. Critics mention him. Bronson brings authenticity. Bronson's presence elevates the material. That kind of thing. More offers come. Better roles. Better pay. By 1970, Bronson is making $25,000 per film. By 1972, $50,000. Real money. Life-changing money. He buys a house. Supports his family. Saves for the future. After 20 years of struggling, he's finally comfortable. Then 1974 happens. Death Wish. Paramount Pictures produces it. The same studio that paid Bronson $50 in 1951 now wants him to carry their biggest film of the year. Lead role. Name above title. Everything riding on him. The negotiations are interesting. Paramount offers $500,000. Bronson's agent says no. Not enough. The studio increases. $750,000. The agent says no again. They settle on $1 million. $1 million for one film. Charles Bronson sits in the negotiation room. Listens to these numbers. $1 million. From the same studio that paid him $50 23 years ago. The same studio where he stood in the background wearing an ill-fitting suit. Where Billy Wilder noticed his face for half a second. He thinks about the math. $50 to $1 million. That's an increase of 20,000 times. Or, looked at differently, he's now making in one film what would have taken him 20,000 days of extra work. 55 years of standing in backgrounds. All compressed into one lead role. Death Wish releases in July 1974. It's controversial. Critics hate it. Call it fascist. Dangerous. Irresponsible. But audiences love it. Pack theaters. Make it the #1 film in America. It earns $22 million. Paramount makes enormous profit. And they want more. Want sequels. Want Bronson locked in. The negotiation for Death Wish 2 starts immediately. Paramount offers $1.5 million. Bronson's agent laughs. Says $3 million. They settle at $2.5 million. $2.5 million for a sequel. By 1976, Bronson is making $3 million per film. By 1980, $4 million. He becomes the highest-paid actor in Hollywood. Not because he's the most talented. Not because he's the most famous. Because he's the most reliable. The most bankable. The audience trusts him. Buys tickets to see him. Makes studios money. Paramount especially. The studio that gave him his first $50 job becomes his most frequent employer. They make 5 Death Wish films together. Dozens of other projects. They pay him tens of millions of dollars over 15 years. All because audiences love watching Charles Bronson be Charles Bronson. In 1985, Bronson is doing press for Death Wish 3. A reporter asks about his career. His journey. How it feels to be so successful. Bronson thinks about the question. Then mentions that first Paramount job. The $50 background role in 1951. The reporter asks how much Paramount has paid him total over the years. Bronson doesn't know exact numbers. His accountant handles that. But he estimates. The Death Wish films alone. 5 films. Roughly $15 million total. Plus other Paramount projects. Maybe $20 million. Maybe more. The reporter does the math. Says so Paramount went from paying you $50 to paying you roughly $20 to $50 million over your career. That's a million times increase. How does that feel? Bronson says it doesn't feel like anything special. Just feels like work. Like showing up every day for 35 years. Doing the job. Getting better at it. Being reliable. The money is nice. But it's not the point. The point is the work itself. But there's something else. Something Bronson doesn't say to the reporter. Something private. Every time he goes to Paramount for a meeting or a shoot, he remembers that first day. The ill-fitting suit. The $50 in his pocket. Standing in the background while Billy Wilder directed the real actors. He remembers how invisible he felt. How insignificant. How desperate. $50 felt like a fortune then. Felt like proof he could survive. Could keep trying. Could maybe, someday, become something more than background. Now he walks onto the same lot as the star. The lead. The reason the film gets made. Studio executives shake his hand. Ask his opinion. Defer to his judgment. He has power now. Influence. Respect. Things that $50 extra never imagined. The security guards at the Paramount gate know him. Wave him through. No questions. No checking. Mr. Bronson doesn't wait. Mr. Bronson doesn't get stopped. Mr. Bronson is Paramount royalty. From $50 extra to studio royalty. 35 years. That's the journey. In 1990, Bronson makes his last film for Paramount. The Indian Runner. Supporting role. He's slowing down. 69 years old. Not interested in carrying films anymore. Just wants interesting work. Good directors. Quality projects. The pay is $1 million. One film. Same as Death Wish 16 years earlier. Full circle. Started at 50. Peaked at 4 million per film. Ending at 1 million. But that 1 million for a supporting role in 1990 is still 20,000 times the $50 he made in 1951. Still proves the same point. You can start at the bottom and reach the top. If you survive long enough. Work hard enough. Never quit. Paramount's relationship with Bronson spans 39 years. From 1951 to 1990. From $50 to 50 million. From extra to icon. The studio that gave him his first job also gave him his biggest successes. His most famous roles. His financial security. There's a loyalty there. Mutual loyalty. Paramount took chances on Bronson when other studios wouldn't. Gave him opportunities. Paid him fairly. Respected him. And Bronson repaid that loyalty by making them hundreds of millions of dollars. By being professional. By showing up. By doing the work. In 1999, Paramount celebrates its 90th anniversary. They create a montage of their greatest stars. Actors who defined the studio. Made it successful. Made it legendary. Charles Bronson is in that montage. Not as an extra. As a star. One of the faces that represents Paramount Pictures. Someone at the anniversary event mentions Bronson's first job at Paramount. The $50 background role. People laugh. Find it charming. The idea that Charles Bronson, action icon, once stood in the background for $50. It seems impossible. Quaint. Like ancient history. But Bronson, watching the montage, remembers it clearly. Remembers every detail. The ill-fitting suit. The waiting. The free sandwich. Billy Wilder's brief attention. The $50 in his pocket. How significant it felt. How crucial. That $50 wasn't just money. It was validation. Proof that he could do this. That Hollywood would pay him for his time. For his presence. Even if just as background. Even if just as furniture. Someone thought he was worth $50. That mattered. And now, 48 years later, Paramount and other studios have paid him approximately $50 million total over his career. A million times increase. From $50 to 50 million. From extra to icon. From invisible to immortal. The math is staggering. But the journey is what matters. Not the destination. The 39 years between that first 50 and that last million. The thousands of days of showing up. Working. Improving. Surviving. That's the real story. Charles Bronson died in 2003. Age 81. Pneumonia. Quiet death. His obituaries mention his tough guy roles. Death Wish. The Magnificent Seven. His iconic face. His minimal dialogue. His authentic presence. Some obituaries mention interesting facts. Like his coal mining background. His World War II service. His late career breakthrough at 52. But very few mention that first Paramount job. The $50 extra role in Ace in the Hole. It's a footnote. Trivia. Not important enough for most writers to include. But to Bronson, it was everything. The beginning. The first step. The moment someone decided he was worth paying. Worth $50. Worth a chance. That $50 bought him 2 weeks of survival in 1951. But it also bought him entry into an industry that would eventually pay him millions. That would make him famous. That would turn a Pennsylvania coal miner into a Hollywood legend. So when people ask about Charles Bronson's success, about how he went from nothing to icon, the answer is simple. He started with $50. Worked for 39 years. Never quit. Never compromised. Never forgot where he came from. And eventually, that $50 became $50 million. Not because he was lucky. Because he was persistent. Not because he was discovered. Because he kept showing up. Not because Hollywood owed him anything. Because he proved, over decades, that he was worth investing in. Paramount Pictures learned this lesson. Learned that the $50 extra from 1951 could become the $4 million star of 1980. That investing in talent, even when it's rough and unproven, sometimes pays extraordinary dividends. They paid Charles Bronson $50 for his first job. Background work. Meaningless role. Forgettable film. But that $50 started a relationship. A partnership. A journey that lasted 39 years and generated hundreds of millions of dollars in box office revenue. That's not just a career arc. That's a masterclass in persistence. In patience. In trusting the process. In showing up for $50 when you need $5,000. In doing background work when you dream of leading roles. In starting at the bottom and climbing slowly, steadily, relentlessly upward. Charles Bronson proved that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. That $50 can become $50 million if you work long enough and well enough. That the studio that sees you as disposable background can eventually see you as indispensable star. All it takes is 39 years. Thousands of days. Millions of moments of choosing to continue. To persist. To believe that the next job might be better. The next role might break through. The next year might be the one. For Charles Bronson, that belief was justified. That persistence paid off. That $50 beginning led to a $50 million career. From extra to icon. From background to legend. From $50 to forever. And somewhere in Paramount's archives, there's a call sheet from 1951. Ace in the Hole. Scene 14. Man in crowd. Pay rate, $50. Charles Buchinski. The first time Paramount paid the man who would become Charles Bronson. $50. The best investment Paramount Pictures ever made. Because that $50 bought them Charles Bronson. And Charles Bronson made them hundreds of millions. 1,000,000 times return on investment. Not bad for one day of background work. That's the story. $50 to $50 million. 25 years between. One studio. One actor. One incredible journey from invisible to legendary. From $50 to forever.